Star Wars, Cara Dune. Do you know who she is? Do you remember Cara Dune in The Mandalorian Season 1 and Season 2? Yes, brought to us by the great actress Gina Carano, who Jon Favreau handpicked to create the character around.
I love working with Gina.
Cara Dune. Lots of big plans for her in the Star Wars universe. And then in 2021, she did a couple things that a few internal people didn't like at Lucasfilm, and she was canned, but now she might be back. What an interesting situation, what an interesting ride. And we have a special guest today to discuss that with us and the future of the Star Wars franchise.
Cara Dune, Marshal of the New Republic.
Gina Carano, could she come back as Cara Dune? We're going to discuss it today on Dish Drops. Thank you so much for coming in and joining us today here on Dish Drops. Yes, we appreciate you. You are the greatest audience on YouTube. Please do click that like button on the way in. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and do click that notification bell. Of course, when you click it, you stick it to the YouTube algorithm. You get notified of all of our uploads here at Follow the Bradley's Fun. And if there's a hype button, hey, hit the hype button too. We love those hype points. Make sure you're dropping those comments during the conversation. We want to involve you. You're so important to us. We could not do what we do without you and the conversations. Star Wars, is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Should they bring Gina Carano back? Should they not bring Gina Carano back? You got to comment below and let us know what your thoughts are. Hey, and get into it. Really get into it in the comments. Without further ado, we're talking Star Wars. We're talking Gina Carano. We're talking Cara Dune. Welcome back, Fun Fam. You are watching another exciting episode of Dish Drops here on Follow the Bradley's Fun. What is Dish Drops? Well, of course, this is our supplement to our live shows, The Dish, which can be seen every Monday here on Follow the Bradley's Fun at 2:05 p.m. Eastern Time, 3:05 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesdays, and 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesdays. Sometimes we might even do a special on Sunday nights at 5:05 p.m. Thank you for coming in. We do have a special guest, a guest who is an expert in all things Star Wars. We want to bring him onto the scene. We're going to talk about Cara Dune. We're going to talk about the Mandalorian and Grogu. We're going to talk about Gina Carano. Let's bring him on to this panel. Welcome, Lorn Conner. I want to welcome in my guest today, Mr. Lorn Conner, from the world famous Lorn of the Wings. Now, Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Wings. My goodness gracious. How you doing this morning, Lorn?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm awake and waking up. There was a big Falcon Heavy launch here this morning, but I couldn't really. It was cloudy here, so I watched it via stream.
That's a fun thing to wake up to.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I will say, living in Florida, a lot of launches, and of course, many of them are named after something that we're a little bit talking about today, which is Star Wars, and that is the Millennium Falcon. And of course, Falcon is a name for a lot of the rockets Elon Musk launches. So, Lorn, I invited you here today because you are the Star Wars guy. You're our go-to Star Wars guy, and I wanted to talk a little bit about Gina Carano, the situation that happened with her, and the possibility of her coming back, and what all you think that would mean. First question for you is, were you a fan of The Mandalorian Season 1, and specifically Cara Dune's character?
Yeah, I loved both Mandalorian Season 1 and 2. They really captured what I kind of wanted out of Star Wars. Now, there's a couple episodes in the first season that are a little bit rough. The acting can be a little stilted. Sometimes the effects aren't exactly what you want them to be, but that's not atypical of Star Wars, even in the theatrical productions. There's a little bit of goofiness that is always kind of there. What I liked about The Mandalorian in particular was that you were getting more of a street level view of the Star Wars universe, more of the perspective of the average guy who might be hanging out in this galaxy. And so it reminded me a lot of, say, the old Tales of the Mos Eisley Cantina or Tales from Jabba's Palace kind of perspective. And I thought that was an interesting way to go.
Yeah.
I too. I mean, my wife and I both, like, my wife was not a Star Wars fan at all, and we watched The Mandalorian season 1, and she really liked it. Of course, for for a woman having Baby Yoda in there, that's what we all called him, right? Season 1, we didn't have a name yet, so it was Baby Yoda, and obviously the best toy marketing idea that Star Wars had in a long time. I don't know if it was done just specifically for that, or if there was more to it as far as the story is concerned. What do you think about that?
I don't
Just
think
the
that
Baby Yodas.
the weird part about this is that I don't think that was what Jon Favreau had foremost in mind when he was creating the series. And there's debates about whether or not they just didn't understand that this was going to be a marketable character, or if they didn't have merchandise originally created because they didn't want to spoil the surprise. One of the things that I remember before The Mandalorian came out was that Jon Favreau was giving a number of interviews about things that the show was going to be about. He was positioning the show as it's going to be a Western in Star Wars. You're going to be following this bounty hunter character. But in one of the interviews, he talked about how they were going to be exploring Yoda's species. And that it didn't really make a splash because everybody thought, okay, maybe he's going to encounter, he's going to, some kind of a bounty is going to have to be returned to a planet of Yoda's. And that kind of raised some alarm bells because Lucas had always been, he always wanted to leave Yoda's race mysterious. And so the idea of potentially going to their home world or seeing a bunch of Yoda's species, it kind of irritated me. I thought this is a bad idea. I don't think this is going to go the way that it should. Never once did it occur to me that they were going to have a baby Yoda character and that they were going to preserve the mystery and that we're not going to see his species. We're not going to go to the planet. Everybody thought it was just a throwaway line. So that made it really impactful when at the climax of the first episode, you understand that his bounty is a young child of that species. And now you've got the lone wolf and cub situation that I wasn't expecting. And I thought it was such a pleasant surprise to have something come at you in a way that you didn't expect, you didn't anticipate, and it totally changes the way that you're thinking about what this show could be. I thought that was really clever.
Yeah. And the other thing that I liked about it was the first look at Star Wars, really from a truly non-Skywalker perspective. It gave you a look into that part of the Star Wars galaxy, the Star Wars universe, and the Star Wars lore that was kind of apart from the whole Skywalker saga at first. Obviously they brought Luke into it eventually. Huge part of the finale of the second season, of course, and that's really where I want to talk about the character of Gina Carano, or Gina Carano's character Cara Dune. So she was a pretty big part of the first and second season, and my understanding, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, is that she was supposed to lead a series called Rangers of the New Republic that would spin off of The Mandalorian. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was the plan. And what's interesting to me about this is that it's not just Rangers of the New Republic. It's that Cara Dune was specifically created with Gina Carano in mind. Favreau was already kind of enamored of her and her acting ability, and he wanted to create a character that was specifically a vehicle for her, not just some actress that would later be cast. Gina Carano specifically. And one of the things that Gina talked about was when they brought her in and were showing her concept art for the series, it already had her face on it, and that kind of blew her away a little bit. So he had been thinking before she was even cast about where this character was going to go. And that's one of the reasons that I think her character was intended to be even more important than what initial appearances might have led people to believe. She was a drop trooper from Alderaan who would have been considered like a heavy assault trooper. And remember, in the previous EU, I don't know if they still hold by this in the Disney canon because they've never really specifically addressed it. Alderaan was considered a pacifistic planet. They were not somebody who, in fact, it's one of the lines that Leia has in A New Hope is that they have no weapons, and that was taken literally in the old EU, and that they had abolished weapons of all types. So, for somebody of Alderaanian descent to become a drop trooper is kind of a big deal, but you also got to imagine after the destruction of Alderaan, that may be the path that they would take. I always thought that where John was intending to take this was to have a later revelation that Cara was in some way related in a distant way to Leia. And so I always thought that she was going to eventually be revealed to be essentially the last surviving member of Leia's distant bloodline, and thus would have some type of a claim to the throne in the sense of the Alderaanian remnant. I don't know for sure if that's where they were going, but I know Disney can't resist the idea of Disney princesses, and I sort of thought that that may be the direction that John was intending to take her.
Huge plans, right? Huge plans for the character. Prominent roles in Mandalorian season 1, season 2, and huge role in the finale. You know, obviously that finale of season 2, I think, caught us all by storm. And every Star Wars fan got to see Luke in that one action, coming down the hallway, fighting all the troopers and or whatever, the space robots, and then he takes Grogu, and it was, I loved it. I mean, I was like, wow, this is it. And then all the stuff went down with just, I don't know, a couple of posts on Instagram or X. I don't want to get into all of the reasons that what happened, but they let her go. She finds out that they let her go on social media, and that had to have derailed Favreau's plans. Did they even warn Jon Favreau that it was going to happen?
I don't think so. And I think that there is some, I wouldn't call it evidence, but I think there's a credible theory that this wasn't even really necessarily a management decision. I think there's a strong possibility that whoever their social media manager was decided that they were going to take the stand and put out this message. And at that point, corporate pretty much had to go along with it. There was already the controversy going on. They had already put significant pressure upon Gina for other issues. It was obvious internally there was a cabal of people who didn't like her and didn't want her to be there. And the other thing that is kind of the elephant in the room is that the sequel trilogy had not been popular, had not been successful, had taken Star Wars down a path that had diminished its impact in pop culture. The Mandalorian was gaining a lot of attention, and suddenly you had this moment at the climax of season 2 where it brought people together for a very brief moment in time. You had people losing it over the reappearance of Luke Skywalker as we wanted him to appear. Favreau had put together something that had overshadowed their theatrical releases. And there's a lot of you've heard the saying that when you go for the king, you best not miss. In this case, I think it applies to the Queen Kathy. And while I don't think John was trying to take her down, what he had done was overshadow her and had essentially made her look bad. And I think there was absolutely no tolerance for that within the company. So they were going to use whatever means were necessary to hobble him. And I think they successfully did that.
So let's fast forward a little bit, and we come up to last year. Well, first of all, we come up to the fact that Elon Musk purchases Twitter, changes it to X, puts out a message that anybody that was had a disruption in their employment, anybody could have reached out to him about a lawsuit. So she does, and very, very fast forward, she sues Disney. They settle. She basically comes out on the winning end of the thing last year. And now Kathleen Kennedy is no longer Lucasfilm. So now Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau re-enter the picture, and we have this story out of that park place. Let me see if I can get this on to the screen. Gina Carano reveals post-lawsuit call with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. Is she coming back to Star Wars? Now, this is where the question gets very, very interesting. This is by, of course, our good friend Marvin Montanaro out of thatparkplace.com. Bookmark it if you haven't done so yet. There she is as Cara Dune in The Mandalorian Season 2. Exclusively on Disney Plus, which, of course, Fake Wizard would like you to cancel, but maybe you'll subscribe if she comes back. I don't know. Now, I have to tell you, on a personal note, Lauren, when they did what they did to Gina Carano, that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me, because Star Wars was going downhill a bit, in my opinion, except for The Mandalorian Season 1 and Season 2, and Cara Dune was a bright spot in it. And it's not just because of her character, it's because of the way the situation was handled. And Disney, at that point in time, had done this kind of over and over again to a number of people, Roseanne Barr being a very, very prominent one. At the same time, some of the things that were put out by other actors and actresses that were under the Disney umbrella, for example, Pedro Pascal, were, I think, equally offensive, but on a different side of, the commentary, and he stayed on. So for me personally, when Gina was gone, I was out. I just really haven't watched The Acolyte. I haven't watched Andor. And there's a couple times I've really tried, and I'm like, I just can't. Like, I can't even bring myself to it. I don't know I'm wondering how many people are like me, that like this was the straw that broke the camel's back. It's just very, very difficult for me to watch anything Star Wars without thinking how bad that situation was and how poorly it was handled by Disney when they got rid of Gina Carano and her character. But her coming back might change things for me. This is what the article reads. Gina Carano says she has already reconnected with Star Wars creators Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau following the settlement of her lawsuit with Disney, something that not long ago seemed highly unlikely. A conversation that didn't feel like a reunion. Speaking on the Ariel Helwani show, Carano described a surprisingly relaxed conversation with the two men who helped bring Cara Dune to life in The Mandalorian. And this is what she says. She says, I already have had a conversation with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. She said, really lovely. After we settled the lawsuit, we got on a Zoom call. It was really nice. Dave Filoni taking over CEO of Star Wars, and it's like we didn't even miss a beat. And Jon Favreau was really funny. Got on Zoom, and he's like, so, where did we leave off? There's no tension in that quote, no corporate stiffness. If anything, it sounds like three people picking up a conversation that got interrupted, a conversation that now might be continued. And then, of course, the article goes on to talk about a little bit what we've talked about, which was that, her messy breakup. And now it's an interesting conversation. What do you think about the idea of her coming back? Do you think that it's a real possibility, or are we hearing fluff? What do you think?
It's a coin flip. When I first heard about this story, I got excited because when the lawsuit was settled, one of the things that Disney did was they made a statement that said that we look forward to identifying opportunities to potentially work with Gina in the future, something to that effect. And I'm almost certain that was a requirement of the settlement. That is an attempt to telegraph to the audience that Gina is no longer canceled and you can talk to her again. It's an attempt to repair her reputation. Whether they were actually going to work together or not again at that point, I felt that it was very unlikely, because you still have the entrenched Disney attitude internally. And I think that would almost be too much of an admission that they had gone too far. The fact that she had a conversation with Favreau and Filoni doesn't surprise me. She's always spoken well of both of them, and in fact, she spoke well of many of the people, including Pedro, that she worked with on The Mandalorian. But I also felt that the circumstances and the pain that it caused her might preclude her from wanting to come back. Now, there's a few things that line up right now. You've got the Gina Ronda Rousey fight the week before the release of The Mandalorian and Grogu. Her casually mentioning this during an interview comes across as, hey, maybe we're messaging something. And honestly, I've been saying for a while now that I believe Disney is undergoing a pivot, and especially with regards to Star Wars. I think that a mandate has come down that said we're going to make an attempt to genuinely fix this. They have recognized that they have done serious brand damage. They're bleeding money. They're not making their investment back. I think somebody on the money side has told them enough is enough. You're going to take steps to course correct. Bringing Gina back would be a requirement for that to work. Unfortunately, after I had heard the initial remarks and made some remarks about it myself, I got to see the interview in a fuller capacity, and she was pretty much explicitly asked that, would you come back? And then she sort of demurred a little bit. Now, if she is in the movie, there are reasons why she would do that. I'm certain she would be under a non-disclosure agreement. She wouldn't want to reveal those kind of plot details. But what she was saying was something to the effect of, it would really, really depend on the script and the director that she was working with. I know that she likes Favreau, but I think there's still some hurt and some pain here that sort of... I think she would be hesitant to work with Disney again because she knows that there are people internally who still wish her ill. And I don't think that she wants to be in that kind of environment anymore. So initially I got really excited and I thought, yes, I think this is a requirement for Disney to try and make amends. But a lot comes down to how Gina feels about this. So to me, it's absolutely a coin flip. I think it's a requirement for Star Wars to recover. And I think Disney may be at a point where they recognize that they have to do that to recover. But what can they offer Gina that she wants? That's the real question. And now, that may play into the Favreau quote where he says, where did we leave off? Now, where they left off was she was going to get her own series.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's as much of an attractive prospect now as it would have been, because Disney Plus, in their series format, has not been successful for quite some time. So
That's true.
It's a heavy, heavy lift. They would have to really sweeten the pot in some way, I think, for Gina to bite.
Okay, so all of that being said, let's say that obviously that's a possibility, her being out. Now, my real question is, let's say that she does come back. There is a very vocal part of the fandom that definitely would not want her back and that would reject this. That vocal part of the fandom being those people who I see on X, bring back Acolyte season 2. There's a lot of people that now I wouldn't say a lot of people. I personally think it's a small percentage of the fandom, but that's just my thought. I don't really know. I'm basing it on the data that we have of what has been watched and what has not been watched. But Andor supposedly is good, and that's not getting watched a whole lot. So I don't really know what they're doing with Marvel right now. Daredevil Born Again. Daredevil's extremely popular on Netflix, and it's absolutely dying on Disney Plus. So there's a real question of the taint that Disney has put on these properties, whether it's Marvel or Star Wars or Pixar, over the last few years. I just feel like Disney has lost so much reputation with just general fandom. They put a lot of traditional families off and stuff. So let's say that she does come back. Do you think that prospect actually helps Disney? Does it hurt Disney? Does it even make a difference? Does it make a dent? Or,
it in no way hurts Disney, because for those vocal people that you're talking about who would kick up a stink about her coming back, these are not the fans that spend money. And we know this because the merchandising has practically imploded for Star Wars. What used to be the toy king and the merchandise king, now a bunch of licensees no longer want to pay for the license because they make product, it doesn't sell, it stacks up on shelves, they have to send it to outlets to try and sell it at a discount. They're losing money on these prospects.
Are you trying to say that I'm not going to be able to resell my 500 Rose Tico dolls that I collected?
It's unlikely. And ultimately, I think this is why Disney is finally attempting to pivot, is that I think the money people, they've come down with a mandate and said, enough is enough. You see this happening on the Marvel side as well. The marketing that they're trying to do for Doomsday right now, they came out and said, really, the last thing that you needed to watch was Endgame. They are actively now trying to ignore the last two phases of Marvel. They're hoping that
they're putting
don't think
Endgame
about
back
that.
In the theater and adding scenes to it.
So to me, the people that have been running these various studios and IPs, I don't think that they would do that if given the choice. I think that they've had a number of ideologues that thought that they had a platform that they could use for their own purposes, and they didn't care whether those franchises were healthy or made money or not. I think that they were making the calculation that over time, the existing audience would age out, the new generation would embrace it because they have been told this is the best thing ever and it's all you've got anyway, so you'll watch it. That didn't turn out to be the case. So I don't care how vocal these people are that are complaining about making a pivot. What really speaks is your dollar. If you're not spending money, scream into the wind all you want. I don't think they care anymore.
Well, on a personal note, for me, if Gina Carano comes back, I'm definitely going to watch. I don't know how many people there are out there like me who left because of this, and I would find it an olive branch, if you will, to all of Disney fandom that, hey, Disney admit, without actually vocally saying it, you got a new leader. You don't have Bob Iger anymore. You got Josh D'Amaro. I know Dana Walden, she probably is closer to an Iger in her ideology, but the ideology that Disney does not apologize for mistakes ever. Maybe if they were to bring Gina back, I'm not saying that they're actually admitting a mistake vocally, but they kind of would be, in a sense of saying, hey, we're bringing her back, would message to the audience that they did in fact make a mistake in letting her go. And I would feel at least a little bit better about that and give whatever she's in a chance. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good. No. If the writing is off and if other things are off, it's still one of those things where it's going to cost money and they would be taking a chance on it. But for me, I would definitely give it the chance. I don't know if it would be good for them. Like you said, they're not really risking anything bad, but would it be good?
Trying to fix Star Wars is a heavy lift because it's not like they just need to restore Gina. They need to do something about the sequel trilogy, and the only thing that the fan base will accept is eliminating it. I don't think they can do that outright. I think the only way that they could do that is over time gradually overwriting it. You've got a 30-year gap between Return of the Jedi and where The Force Awakens would be. And we already know they overwrite their own canon all the time. So I think what they're doing right now is evaluating internally, what can we do, what is something that the audience would react positively to. And I think honestly they don't really have a good answer for that. I don't think they know precisely what the audience wants. I know they know some things that the audience wants, and unfortunately many of those things they can't actually give us because the window of opportunity is passed. So they're stuck with, all right, understanding that we can't give them exactly what they want. What could we give them that would change the trajectory of the franchise right now? I don't think they know. I think they're trying to figure that out. Now, one of the other reasons that I would say that they're doing a pivot is next year is the 50th anniversary of Star Wars, and you're seeing them already begin gearing up with lots of marketing for that, but all of it is about the original trilogy characters and all of that stuff. And that includes bringing the original trilogy characters to Galaxy's Edge in the parks. And in fact, a number of videos dropped this morning of that happening. They are debuting now. Darth Vader appeared in the park last night. Han appeared, and also Han has had a costume upgrade. He's now in the Empire Strikes Back outfit, and it looks a lot better than those initial the outfits that they showed. In the initial promo pics, they were showing post Return of the Jedi character designs and costumes. Now they're going back even earlier. This is yet again, to me, without saying it, a tacit apology. This is them saying, we understand you don't want to hear anything more about the sequel trilogy, and they're doing everything they can not to talk about it. So that to me is a sign. Is it enough? No. They need at least 2 to 3 good, consistent stories that respect the universe and its rules and its characters. It's difficult to even get one good story told. You know, story writing is not an easy thing to do. And when you're dealing with a franchise with this much history, with so much lore, not violating that is incredibly difficult. And so the only way they can do it, in my opinion, is they're going to have to rein in the creators a little bit, because the creators always try and push back against those restraints, those constrictions. They want to write what they want to write. They don't want to be constrained by what the rules and lore of the universe is. That's why you end up with things like forced teleportation of objects, and why you end up with hyperspace skipping, and why you end up with things like using the transition to hyperspace as a ram against another vehicle. It's like this is because they want to ignore all of the rules. Somebody is going to have to take a stand and tell the people that are writing and directing these things, no, you can't do that. There are rules and you have to abide within them. So yeah, we'll see.
Exactly. We'll see. Well, you know, there was a time that I think under Lucasfilm, the Force was with them. Right now, I'd say the Force is against Disney. Bringing back Gina Carano, who knows what would happen. But one of the things that we know for sure is when it comes to Star Wars and Star Wars lore, you cannot force the audience into liking what is just not good. So hopefully they come up with something good. Maybe Star Wars can be revived. We shall see.
And thank you once again to our special guest, Star Wars expert Lorn Conner. Thank you so much for coming in today, checking us out, checking Lorn and myself out. Gina Carano, will she come back? If you haven't done so yet, please like the video before you leave, comment below, subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell. When you click it, you stick it to the YouTube algorithm. You get notified of all of our uploads here at Follow the Bradley's Fun. Thanks so much again, and until next time, we will see ya real soon. Bye, everybody. Ciao! Let's keep the fun going. For more Star Wars news and commentary, click right over here. For all of our dish drops, pop culture, and parks news and commentary videos, click right over here. And if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the channel. Click right here. Thank you so much. We'll see ya real soon. Bye, everybody. Ciao!